Corporate America seemed like a great plan. All I had to do was go to a good school, get good grades, and then land a good job, and I was set for the rest of my life. I'd have good benefits, a nice cozy salary, and then a great retirement package waiting for me at the end. Well, then I started to execute that plan. I ended up in corporate America and realized this was not at all what I had signed up for.
Yeah, AJ, I quit corporate America like 30 years ago for all the same reasons. So I think this is a great topic for us to kind of dig into because there's so many ins and outs, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason you didn't go back after 30 years, I'm sure, right? Like, it really sounds like a great concept, right? You just punch your 9 to 5 in, you get your 401k, you've got all this vacation time blocked out for you. But then you sit in your desk on that first Monday and you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. But then like Wednesday and Thursday comes around and you're like, what is going on here?
Yeah, exactly. And and I think this says it all. I started a company called Live Truly Free because I wasn't living truly free in corporate America. Now, I've worked a lot with corporate America over the 30 years, but I've done it on my terms, not theirs. And that's a big difference.
Yeah, because their terms, they can require a return to office mandate at any time they want to. You have to be on these recurring meetings. And especially at my stage, right? I was coming out of college, joining this large company. They just throw you in meetings and they're like, oh, yeah, AJ, we need you there. You sit in the meeting, you go 30 minutes, don't say anything. And you want to say, like, hey, I don't think I need to be here. But then because of this whole like seniority thing and trying to like build your corporate brand, you'd never want to say that. So it's just this weird thing of everyone agreeing to waste each other's time.
Build your corporate, you mean like your personal corporate brand inside the company?
Yes, because you can't be yourself, George. You have to build a brand. You have to present the best version of yourself. It's like, when you wanted to get into college, all of these, and this was a pretty high achieving company, Fortune 500 company that I was at. Right. All of these people were all very much.
It was a tech company.
Yeah, and a tech company too, to add a little more character to it. All of these people were very much like me, in that they've always succeeded coming up through the system. And as we've discussed on this podcast, and as all of us know, the system isn't really designed for you to be yourself. It's designed for you to, you sit and you pass the test, and then you're nice and orderly, and then you go to the next class and you take that test. And it's all just this process of basically, it feels like we're all on an assembly line just to achieve outputs for whoever the shareholder is.
You know what occurs to me is that the word bureaucrat ends in the word rat. And we're just a bunch of rats in the maze, and we're trying to get through. And I've got my corporate brand and I'm looking smart and cool and blah, 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 all to like, and the really good rats, they know how to work the system and move on up.
Yeah. That's why they call it the rat race.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. So your plan wasn't always to be in big corporate America. You were going for experience and things like that, right?
And yeah, my plan I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Like, I've never had like a destination. This is the final office I want to be in. At one point I wanted to be president, but I think I put that on the back burner.
President of the United States?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's a dream job in any way, shape, or form. But so once I got over that one, once I realized how bad of a job that was, I haven't really had a dream job. So I just figured, I'd go run this corporate rat race. I'd go into the big tech company, climb the ladder, and figure it out from there. I'm sure
you were thinking like kind of doing for like a few years or something like that. But I remember talking to you within months, like a year or something, and you were pretty much like hanging on by your fingernails, as I recall.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying at the beginning. Like, on the first Monday, it seemed good. But by Wednesday or Thursday, I had realized, oh, wait, this is not fun. This is just like, it's basically like a drama class, right? Where we all have to go in and act to be this corporate robot, this corporate stooge, this corporate whatever they want you to be to succeed there. I realized, oh, everybody is being fake here, and this is going to be quite painful to endure.
So you go from this huge company, hundreds of thousand employees or something, I don't know, to a small company, and you're employee number 2. It's like, and that's quite a culture shock, right? I mean,
the difference has been night and day. When I was employee number 1,500,000 and whatever it was at the big corporation, I literally would wake up some days and be like, no one needs me here. Like I would directly say that to myself as I logged on. I would check my email and be like, none of you guys actually need me. And now today, when I think about being employee number 2, I log on in the morning and I go, everyone needs me.
so it sounds good, but it also sounds bad.
Yeah, it's all, what does Thomas Sowell say, right? There's never a solution. It's always just a matter of trade-offs, right? And so I went from that mind-numbingly boring, fake acting into a place where now I'm always busy and I'm actually learning things. I'm getting great experience. I'm pushing myself. I'm adding value. I'm collaborating with people. I actually, every day that I work, at the end of the day, I go, oh, I actually see how I helped my organization take a step today because I showed up to work. Where with the old corporation, I would just leave. I would try to get done as soon as I could and didn't care at all about, did the company take a step forward or not, because I had no visibility to that.
Okay, you've swerved into something I think is really important. And as human beings, and this is everybody on the planet, we all want to be a part of something that's bigger than ourselves. And we want to know we're making a contribution in that regard. So the feeling is you could just show up. You might not even have to show up, or just be available in case your boss calls or something.
Yeah, basically, answer your emails, stay on top of your meeting schedule, and the recurring meeting schedule that they used is basically what creates this churn or this pain, because you go, oh, I've got an idea that I'm ready to move on today, but I don't have a meeting with the stakeholders necessary to move on this until Wednesday of next week. So I guess I won't do anything until Monday or Tuesday of next week to get ready for Wednesday of next week. Even though in reality, it's only about an hour's worth of work that I got to do to get to the next stage.
So okay. So from that, you go from being employee number 1 million or whatever to employee number 2. You see on YouTube, all these, oh, I quit my corporate job and it was wonderful. Well, yeah. So I've heard a couple stories from you, but it's not all sweetness and nice and roses and happiness. I mean, it's like, is the company even going to make it on some days, right? I mean,
yeah. And because, I'm employee number 2, I see all the fires that are going on, and I'm like, oh man,
burn down like the Palisades in California.
Exactly. But the structure is still there, and somehow we're still growing and we're moving forward. So just keep on putting out the fires that we can. There's an uncertainty that comes in, because while the company I'm at, we've actually proven ourselves in the market, and we do deliver value to the market. That's actually the hardest thing to figure out for most companies, right? The company I founded, we could raise money, but we couldn't make money in the market. I could raise money outside of the market, but I could never go make it in the market. This company actually makes money in the market, has proven its value, and has delivered its service. But now it's about tying in all of the operations to make this a repeatable, consistent business that can grow for years and ideally decades. And so I like what you said about people want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves, because it made me think, like, I did enjoy being part of the big tech company, and they sent us on an international trip, and it's great to feel a part of that, right? When you get to go sit down in a bar in a foreign country and go, yeah, I'm an American here with big tech company. It feels pretty good to be part of that, something bigger than yourself. You feel special around there. People like look at you with a lot of respect and are like, oh, this guy's really smart. He's an American getting flown across the world. But that's the only part of being part of the big company I liked.
So it's all about ego.
Yes, 100% just fed the ego, and it wasn't anything about adding value anywhere. It was just simply, oh, I've got this badge and I can get in these doors. That's the extent of feeling part of something bigger.
So you go from big tech to little tech, because what you're doing now is a software as a service company, right?
Yes.
Okay. And there's a life cycle to companies, and you're in the idea forming stage, which is actually what's impressive about them is that they're driving off of revenue, not raised capital. So it's a bootstrap kind of a deal. Those have the most likely chance of success, quite frankly, because they're proving themselves in the marketplace, and they have to keep proving themselves in the marketplace or they die. And I've in leading companies, like leading 19 companies, I've seen it. I mean, there's some crazy stuff. And you're like, how in the hell are they even able to keep the doors open? You know, I mean, they're making so many mistakes. And the trick is you got to keep outrunning your mistakes and keeping the cash flowing. And if you can do that, it's going to work.
Yeah, you characterized it pretty perfectly there, where we've made a bunch of mistakes. And what we're trying to do now is just keep on making money to outrun our mistakes. And then you go back and you try to repair the mistakes as best you can and do what you learn from the mistakes so that you don't carry it forward. But you just got to accept, at some point, you just got to accept that mistakes will be made and keep moving forward.
So there's an image I have. It's Wallace and Gromit. And there's this scene where it's a train. They're on this little train and they're laying track as fast as the train is going. Oh! Pull mine the table, Gromit! That's the way most companies feel. And see, because you're employee number 2, you're not number 1, which means employee number 2 gets dumped on with everything that employee number 1 doesn't want to do. Am I right or am I right or am I right?
Yes, because previously employee number 1 was the only one laying down the train tracks. And now he's like, oh, wait, there's another one of us here. Here's
the track. Lay it. Yeah. This is where creation part of, and this is actually tied to 4 personality types. And so you have the creatives, the ideators, those kind of people, and you need that. That's how this company started. Employee number 1 sees an idea, develops a software for this idea, starts selling it, and it works. Where you head is, imagine a grid, and now you're going diagonally up into the upper left quadrant. These are the doers. And you've got to get doers implementing what the ideators are coming up with real quick. So I've done software as a service companies. I've led this. I know what you're going through to a certain extent, not your specifics. But if I'm selling software, you've got to have support. That's not on the ideator's radar at all, right? It's like,
software and then sell the
software. Sorry?
Yeah, it's just build the software, sell the software.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Everything. Because if you don't have, so you need the doers to come in and start doing and building whatever the infrastructure is in software. You need a support system, you need tickets, you got to do all of that. And then that laterally moves over, and this is where a lot of companies will live decades, and it's very effective, is to what we call the talkers or persuaders. That's the sales force. Those are the guys growing the company with, because you got to keep feeding the beast, okay? But if you're just, and you got to keep developing the software, okay? So you still need the ideators don't go away. You just got to add a, now, here's the death of companies, because you need some systems. You need some administrative stuff. Those are the lower left-hand quadrant. And those guys are like your accountants and your lawyers, and they're, keeping all your operations clean and neat and tidy. And, well, in the life cycle of companies, the ideators start to shrink, the doers start to take over, then you get the talkers, but then the system people come in and go, we need more systems here. And the systems eventually take over the whole company, and those are your bureaucrats. And that's how your big tech company started as a little tech company. I happen to know the story. And they started with this ideation in part, and eventually now it's big tech. And we bring in big consultants, and they say big layoffs, and so we lay off. It's all run by the system people.
Yes, exactly. And they make systematic decisions, and that's a great way to characterize it, because I could see how the big tech company I was at, they probably started and they probably had an employee number two who was just like AJ, who had to do all of this stuff, had to basically, where I'm at on that personality matrix right now is in that doer and in that talker category. I'm doing kind of both the sales and the doing. And then we have one person on the systems and the accounting and that administrative side, but I've got to do a little bit of that work too, to help rate in the ideation. So I'm kind of taking on three personality types at once. But I could see how that started at that big tech company, and then eventually systems just overcame everything. And now there's the people aren't there, the persuaders aren't there. It's all just the bureaucrats that we talked about. And it goes like, when I joined the company, they were just under 150,000 employees. Then when they were that big, because they were able to grow that big in the pandemic with all the free money, and everything like that. And then they get this, the interest rates change. They talk to some consultants. The consultants go, you guys are about 33% too large. And so the big tech company goes, all right, well, we're going to have to drop 50,000 people from this company in the next 2-3 years. And that's what the system says. And so just like clockwork, it was biannual, and now I think they're at a point where they're basically like quarterly or possibly even monthly. You would get a layoff. It was everybody knew it. They would, at the beginning of the fiscal year, everybody's all nervous and, oh, maybe it might be my time. I wonder how much our team's going to get impacted. You make it past that first tranche, and then you're like, all right, good. I'm sailing to June. And then June comes around and everybody's nervous again. And so they created this system by making that systematic decision reduced by 33%. This system of people just kind of living 6 months at a time and approaching their job just in 6 months increments.
Yeah. What I find fascinating is, as an entrepreneur and all of that, is if you understand this flow that I'm talking about, I mean, as an entrepreneur, what you don't want is the system and stuff like that. And as you're talking and saying all of that, what's been going on in at least the United States of America is a growth in government regulations that's been unprecedented on a federal level and state level. And so we got 50 states. So all those regulations are 50 different regulatory bodies, right? And then what's also happened is the world's gotten smaller with the internet, and then the pandemic sort of accelerated all of that. So what you have is forced regulations that you've got to comply with certain things. And first of all, so if the government cuts regulations, then that cuts that down. as entrepreneurs, we want to live up in the doing and persuading and making it happen, but we need the ideation, because the ideation is visioning and direction. And so I've done a lot of that with my Next Level Navigator that you know, AJ, and my book. But the thing there is, if you've got a sense of where you're going, then the doers know what to build and the talkers know what to say. And you can grow leaps and bounds like that.
Yeah. And I think there's one other element, in addition to the government regulations, that's playing a part in this. And that's, and especially when you're bringing in direction, I think it's also, and this is going to be a boring buzzword, but corporate governance. I think that in the modern era, yeah, I knew that was going to get that reaction. But I think right now where we are with how these corporations, I mean, all of them are either owned by BlackRock, State Street, or Vanguard, right? And so when we have them on the board of directors, and then you also have a very aggressive private equity market, and then this whole Jack Welch era of shareholder capitalism, you kind of get to this point where the major shareholders, they're not the ideators, and they're also not concerned very much. And because they're not the ideators, they're not concerned very much with the long-term direction of the company. What they're all focused on, and I think you might be able to talk to this well too, George, is that public pressure of quarterly earnings. And so now, instead of, okay, we're going to be this great company in 15 years that does all of these things, they go, where are we going to be at the end of Q2? And what are we going to tell our shareholders?
Well, I'll tell you what happens is it sucks all the fun out of being an entrepreneur. And I've experienced it firsthand, because I helped lead the corporate strategy at Rackspace prior to them going public. And so I took them right up to where they went public. But as they went public, it was just sucking all of the life out of the company. And prior to that, and we were blowing and going. I mean, this thing was an exponential increase, growing 60, 80% a year. I mean, ridiculous. And the whole trajectory was, there was a team, there was camaraderie. I helped with that. I led all these offsites, did all this kind of stuff. But then, man, when you started layering on the corporate governance issue, that's a new buzzword. And then all of the regulations, you have the SEC requirements to go public and all of that, which I get. I mean, some of it's overkill, but I get, man, it does. And now we're talking, you're doing the quarterly earnings and things like that. And if you guys want something to check out a company called Epic. They're healthcare software, and they've got like the top 25 largest hospital chains use their software. They're 100% private. You've never heard of them. And they're a $9 billion company, $7 or $9 billion company. And they started off with $70,000. Okay. So just like your company, AJ. And the CEO, who is 82, and she doesn't look 82. She said someone came and wanted to buy them out or take them public or something. And the guy said, and I forget who it is, it's some big name you've heard of. And he goes, that was the shortest conversation I've ever had with anyone. It's like 5 minutes. And the answer was no. Because she goes, we're not doing quarterly meetings. And she goes, oh, and we also don't do budgets. This was in a recent article. And she said, if you need something, buy it. And if you don't need it, don't buy it. Okay, where is that common sense in corporate America? It's not.
Nowhere to be found. Because if you want to buy something, if you need something, it's not just buy it. It's you need to tell your manager that you need something, and then your manager needs to tell their manager that they need something, and then they need to get that onto the recurring meeting agenda at the end of the month so that they can talk about whether that's going to make the budget or not.
This is we just lost a whole bunch of people watching from that. Thanks. It's like so I mean, I think the thing is it's like, there's there's not all the promise and stuff like that of corporate America, like, work here your whole lives as a slave and we'll give you a retirement plan, but your bodies are wrecked because you sat in a chair for 40 years and stared at a blue screen. Instead, if you're an entrepreneur and you're coming alive with living into a passion and you're figuring out that right now, it's like, okay, I love this more than I love that. But as employee number 2, or guys in whatever your entrepreneurial endeavor is, you're figuring out the parts you love and you're figuring out the parts you hate. And so grow the company and then start engineering in how to get someone else to either contract or employ or something to do the stuff you hate, leverage yourself and go.
And that's much easier to do in the company I'm in now, where, right, I'm employee number 2, we're growing, there's going to be more employees coming after me, right? So now because I'm employee number 2, I've got a fundamental say in who those next employees are, what they're going to be doing, how we should be thinking about this as a team. Like, my input is critical to determining how we build the team. Where corporate America, you are somebody else's, we'll have them do this.
Well, you're doing something else. It's not just you're shaping the culture. And one of the most fascinating things I've ever learned, and I've seen this play out over and over and over again, is the person at the top. Okay. So I guess that's employee number 1, or, they may not be employee number 1, but because they could be brought in. So like the CEO, the guy at the top, the gal at the top, they set the culture. And literally the culture is who they are. And this was first captured, or I was first made aware of it, by a guy named Tom Peters, In Search of Excellence. So this is a super old book. I didn't realize how old it was. I think I came across it years later in the form of videos of the different companies he was highlighting that were excellent companies. And it stuck with me. And he focused on, so back in the day, Chrysler, the car company, was about to go bankrupt, and there was a huge government bailout and big controversy apparently and stuff like that. And they brought in a guy named Lee Iacocca. Well, he was the guy that designed the Mustang for Ford Motor Company, the original Mustang. That's like a huge collector's thing, right? And so Peters was observing how Iacocca changed the trajectory of that company through the force of his personality. One man, 100,000 employees, maybe, I don't know. Lots of people. Okay. And then you mentioned Jack Welch. That sort of triggered me, because he also would later, not in that series, but later, he would opine on Jack Welch as the opposite of good, of good personality. So Iacocca did something very positive. He saved Chrysler. Okay. So the Germans could buy it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the whole. I don't know. It's not a story I follow. I just know the bits and pieces. But the thing with Welch, so Jack Welch was CEO for years at GE, and he brought in all of this thing about the shareholders, and we got to please and all. And so he through the force of his personality, Peters would say, and I think AJ would say, negatively shaped corporate America.
Yes.
So the point I'm making here is, AJ, you're not employee 1, but employee 1 shapes the culture. Now you got a hand in it, but I have seen it over and over and over again. The person at the top, the person leading the company, man, it's powerful.
Yeah, and I can see that. I can see that very clearly being employee number 2. We go at the pace of employee number 1. No matter what I do, we're going to go at the pace of employee number 1.
Right. Yeah, that's a great observation.
But at Big Corp, and I think this is part of, I said I came into a company that while the company was growing, they were still contracting the size of the workforce. So the company was doing well, but they were still contracting the workforce. Tech company, AI, all that stuff, right?
Right.
I didn't necessarily. I actually felt this tension between the executive team and the founder of the company, the leader, the CEO, and kind of where I was, the individual contributor level. I felt this kind of tension where, and now that I'm kind of thinking through it with what you just said, as an employee, I was like, the CEO, what he does has no effect on me. I don't know I don't know anything about him. I don't know how he operates. I don't know anything like that. But now that I'm kind of reflecting on it, this tension that was going on between, there's basically three classes: the executives, the middle managers, and the individual contributors. There's this tension going on between all three groups. And that's because the executives were pulling the management and the individual contributors to a place that we didn't want to go, but we were going to go there anyways. And anybody who didn't want to go there is no longer with the company. And so it was, the company may have gone in a direction that the CEO didn't necessarily want. And he was, dude's a billionaire, so I think his attention lacked on the company for a little bit. But once he was fully back in the throttle, there was things that he didn't like that were going on, and he was going to cut them no matter what anybody else said about it, and everybody else was going to go slowly towards his way, whether they liked it or not. And and now I'm reflecting on it even more. One of the second in command, so not the CEO, but the COO, at his end of year meeting last year, he said, "All right, thanks for a good year, everybody. Next year is going to be hard too." And that was the inspiring direction. But that's what the executive team said. This is our pace. Our pace is cutthroat, and we don't like y'all.
I guarantee you, if you could know the guy at the top, that's reflecting him. It's reflecting his personality. That's the way he operates. I've seen it. This is really interesting, and this goes back a number of years ago. But I had a friend whose son was looking at a tech job at Rackspace, and I said, "Hey, what's he think?" And he goes, "He's not going to work there." And I was like, "Really? Why not?" Well, so his dad, who I knew, is a psychologist, psychiatrist or psychologist, one of those, and doctor. And so he goes, he read, so they write these cute little bios about, the top guys, in the company, right? And they were all, it was a whole marketing thing to be kind of cute and stuff like that. And so they asked the CEO, the top guy, he was one of the founders. They said, "What's your goal?" And he goes, "My goal," he's just trying to be cute, okay? "My goal is to get home in time for dinner." And my friend's son read that and he goes, "That's not the kind of company I want to work for. Because if the CEO can't get home for dinner, do you think I'm going to ever get home for dinner? No." I knew the company on the inside out. And I was like, that right there is the most amazing insight I've ever heard. He's exactly right. You come in at Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3, you're not going home for dinner. The CEO's not going home for dinner. You're not going. I go, that was amazing. Now, I had a little different role, so I came and went as I chose because I worked with them and I was leading them and I was part of them, but I had my own gig. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to, and they kept trying to suck me in. And I'm like, and the money would have been great. And I would later say, and it was like starting what would eventually become, known as the cloud. We were doing it and leading all of that. I would have had great wealth. and I probably wouldn't have known the names of my children.
Yeah, because the big company doesn't care about your children. They care about their bottom line. They care about putting this cloud up, making this cloud a thing, increasing managed hosting, increasing market share. None of those have anything to do with George's kids.
Right. And I made a choice. And so Live Truly Free is the entrepreneurial lifestyle where I can, intentionally speak into the things that matter to me that make my life whole, which was, raising my family in the way I wanted to do it. I didn't want to just be like the other dads. I wanted to be able to go do the 10-day backpacking trek and call that schedule and just go, yeah, I can do this to the calendar, So this is all, you're kind of in an interesting spot, AJ, because you're not employee number one here, you're employee number two, but you're right. You're learning a ton right now because this startup is like, and it's scary, will you get enough lift? Well, you got to keep, the whole thing going.
Yeah. And I have exposure to all of and this, another thing, I'm trying to correct my university thinking, right? But I have exposure to all of the departments in the company. And so much so, we don't have departments, right? Like things just get done. It's got a little accounting with it, but it's also sales embedded. It's also, everything just kind of mixes into each other like they're supposed to in a business, right? Like,
right.
It's not supposed to be all of these segmented departments that end up just creating politics and then warring against each other. And then you've got marketing promising things that engineering can't deliver and all of that. No, now we don't have any of those walls, which is great. And so I've got exposure to all of them.
Right.
But in Big Corp, I was in one little silo and then it actually got smaller and smaller over time.
And then it went away.
And then it went away. And to the point though, but now I'm actually able to see my value and drive. And it actually makes better sense in the passions conversation as well for me, where I didn't have a big company internship. I started my own company and went through an entrepreneurship competition in place of an internship because I thought it would be better experience getting access to all of, what better way to learn about business than to start one. Was what I thought. And I actually did learn a lot. Company failed fairly miserably, or not miserably. That's me being hard on myself, but company failed and I learned a ton. I go into this big corporation, learned nothing. And now I'm back into this small business and I'm learning a ton again.
So now that you're at Tiny Tech, we won't even say small yet. It's not there. Do some days feel like, hey, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life? And then maybe other days feel like this is the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life?
I never have a day where I call it a mistake. There's some days where I look at it and I'm like, oh man, what have I got myself into? There's been some very long days where I go, work is never done, right? I just decide to stop working for the day, but I can work 12, 16 hours a day, every day and be have a full skill. But yeah, there'll be some of those days where I've been up since 7 a.m. and it's 5, 6 o'clock and I'm like, oh, what did I get myself into? But then I think back to the old company, the big company, and I never want to go back there.
Yeah. Okay.
Even on my worst days here, even on my longest, hardest days here, I'm like, this is better than watching paint dry at the big company.
And what's the reason?
It's that value. It's that being part of something bigger than myself. And I'm actually contributing to it. Now I don't just have a badge and get to claim this group and stroke my ego. I'm actually doing something on a daily basis that I can see my contributions are valuable. And when there's all of this work, it's like, oh man, I'm the one who's here to do it and I can do it. And so even when I feel overwhelmed, I feel kind of empowered because I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'm about to go do some legal contract stuff, do some sales stuff, get some accounting done today. Like I'm going to be everywhere today and show that I can do everything in this company. Where at Big Corp, I really never had an opportunity to show that I'm capable.
Yeah, and so in bringing this in for a landing, this is where I wanted us to kind of get to was like, yeah, there are these panic moments. There are these moments of like, what have I gotten myself into? So that's the same as like, did I make a mistake? In my mind, there's also this like way more fulfilling, and you're in a place where like, quite frankly, your age allows you lots of room for mistakes. And if I could say anything to you guys, if you're under 40, you can you've got a lot of time. Okay. You can make the worst mistake and bounce back. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. There's the lessons you're learning, the experience you're getting is invaluable. And so get into the entrepreneurial world, start something, it's okay. So what, it fails, so what? I'm from Texas. You know how many oil men have gone boom and bust and boom and bust and boom and bust? It's like, how do these guys go through that? That's one emotional roller coaster I don't know that I could do, but you'll find your niche, you'll find what your passion is. And AJ, I think what you're doing right now is right there. Where it leads, you don't know, but honestly, I think what you're saying is amazing. And I think what you're getting is, I'm glad you left when you did and then follow your whole plan, because this is going to take you somewhere where the other job would.
Exactly. And at this point, that other job, and this kind of ties back to that, what I was talking about at the beginning, where everyone's just kind of being fake and everyone's just doing this, making this act and kind of performing this script to build a career. I still have that on my resume, that I worked at that big tech company, got promoted, and was there for, a few years. As I've talked to a couple of mentors of mine about this transition and kind of what my career looks like from this point forward, they've all said, yeah, it's great that you were at the tech company, got promoted, and were there for a couple of years. It shows that you're, capable and a highly employable individual. And they say that, and I'm like, I give them this weird look, because I'm like, but I didn't really do anything. I just got done telling you guys that I woke up most days and said people didn't need me.
Yeah.
But they're like, but it's on the resume, so that looks great for you. And so I'm like, that somehow so this is kind of speaking to our audience here, where it's like, yeah, the cultural narrative is go get the big job, get the high paying salary, go for the prestige, get into the Fortune 100. But that actually doesn't provide the experience that it's a lie. It's just fake experience. It's empty experience. Where now I'm here at Tiny Tech, a company no one ever knows. I can circulate my resume to anybody. Right. They'll never know who I worked at after Big Tech. But I'm learning so much more. And this experience is so much more valuable, so much more enriching, so much more life-giving than anything I did at Big Corp. And so it's kind of just like tossed the that plan I believed in at the beginning. It just flipped it upside down, where I was like, Big Corp is your way to figuring everything out and learning business and becoming a business mogul. Where now I'm like, oh, it's actually like doing things in successful businesses and contributing. That's how you build that business experience.
I think you swerved into something that is really good. And that is, well, what's life giving and what's resume building? And because resume building, guys, recently AJ said he was wanting to make a referral to me, and he says, George, can I get your resume? And I'm like, just go look at my bio page at livetrulyfree.com. It tells the story. It's not a resume. It tells the story, because that's what we do. I'll put in the link below, the life cycle of a company, so that if you want that, you can apply it 2 years and figure out where you are in the life cycle and where you need to go in the life cycle as well. We'll be back with something maybe more along the lines of like resume versus living life. How about that, huh, AJ?
Experiencing life.
Experiencing life. There we go. Okay. All right, guys. And check out this video right here. I know you're going to love it because it ties to what we're talking about today. And in the meantime, may you live truly free.